welcome to Stuttgart. You probably recognize the outline of that airplane, don't you? Hello and welcome to the channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Dave. I do the spy flights over on Twitch. Every week or so I like to come over here and do a complete cold and dark flight. And it was just a few weeks ago that TFDI put out the MD11 airplane. And wow, is it an interesting airplane. But there were definitely a few problems. So the plane is still in development right now. It's due for wide release sometime, I believe, in January. But what we're working on right now, what the developers are working on is swatting bugs, plugging the leaks, and doing all sorts of things. So right now we are here in Stuttgart because they just released an update for the MD11. I've been mostly flying the freighter on this one because the freighter is the one that, well, they're retiring even the freighters. It's been retired from most all of the passenger service, but the freighters are probably being pulled away too. Anyhow, the big development this week is they have fixed the VATSIM problem. So right now, this airplane can fly on VATSIM. So what are we doing today? Well, it's TFDI's MD11 latest update. There are some other updates other than Mode Charlie over on VATSIM, but it is flyable now on VATSIM. I've tested it once, and later on today, we're going to try and take this thing on a VATSIM event in VATSIM, Germany. So that's some real high-quality ATC there in crowded airspace, so we've really got to know what we're doing. So what I'm doing now is sort of a practice flight. This is a full flight. It is completely cold and dark. The add-ons that I use are Navigraph, SimBrief. I do have Payware and default airports, and I also will be using GSX on this particular flight. We are using real-world weather and real-world time. I'm going to show you how I'm working around some of the bugs right now. Cargo and zero fuel weight loading is now possible with the airplane. So we're getting some much more realistic takeoff and landing weights with this. And I'll also show you how I'm going to do the VATSIM pre-flight, which is essentially this whole video. Can I successfully do this flight now before we go on VATSIM a little bit later on today? So if you do have the TFDI MD11, one of the things that you could do is stop the video, load up the sim, and then restart the video. Fly along with me. You can see every button that I'm pushing, and this is the way for you to figure out which buttons to push, at least in the order. I always do like to say it's not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is a simulator. This airplane needs some work, so this is merely what is working for me, and I hope it's going to work for you too. Today's flight is Stuttgart to Hannover. This is a VATSIM event that starts later on today at 1900 Zulu. We're departing off of runway 25. Now, runways could be changing over time too, so could change today, and if you're watching this at a later date, it could change for you too. Our cruise altitude is flight level 240. It's just an hour and 15-minute flight. Our flight distance is 280 miles. Okay. So are we all ready to hop aboard the airplane and do that airplane thing? Couple of things that I've done in advance. So I've already done the flight plan, and this is the flight plan for today's flight, including this number right here, and it's 438,636. That is our zero fuel weight. Okay, giving us a landing weight of 464.25. These are in pounds. I know that Lufthansa Cargo was flying this airplane in kilos. I'm going to be doing this in pounds right now. I'll start to adjust for pounds and kilos a little bit later on with this airplane. The airplane itself does have seats for 2 passengers, actually 3 if you include the flight engineer's seat up in the cockpit. So we have 2 extra passengers, and our cargo today, 176.1. So 176,100 pounds is the rough translation there. And again, this is about an hour and 15-minute flight. An hour 40 is our block time. This is our route. It's a standard route. We've done this one before too. So what could possibly go wrong? The other thing that I've gone and done is I've gone over here to Navigraph, and as you see along the bottom here, I've already stacked up my charts for today's flight, including parking stands for the airport map itself. There's the TAGIK departure. We're going to be over here on the 4 Bravo, so a very nice departure here. Voorburg is the arrival. We come on in with the suggested descent altitude to 5,000 feet at Starstedt, and then we come over here. From Starstedt, it's 3,000 feet to the ILS as we come over, and we hope to be able to grab 27 right. And cargo parking is right over here next to runway 09 center. Okay, so we've got an interesting taxi as well. That's what I've got for you on this one. We are currently at stand 106. This is the plan that I've got for VATSIM later on today in Germany. So we'll see what goes on. All right, let's go ahead and hop aboard the cockpit. Best seat around. So there's a few new changes here. The first thing is you can set your SimBrief username in here. You have to do it pretty much every time. So you can set your username, and since I wrote some spy novels, I call myself the Spy Writer. Okay, so Spy Writer is what you do, and then what you have to do is you have to save it. Okay? After you save it, you need to get out and go to the main menu and then load back in. This is clearly a bug, but it will save your name. So at least that's the way it's worked for me. You don't just go out into the menu and then back in. I think you have to go completely out and completely in. I could be wrong. I've only done this once before, so we'll see what happens. So we do have to wait a little bit to go in and out and get all this done, but we should be able to pop back in and do this. Right now, saving your SimBrief username, I don't think is the most important thing that you can do because it really doesn't go and do that much yet. So we'll go back to 106 and fly, and we'll load back in and see what happens here. So that's really one of the first things that you do. They're going to plug that hole so that it actually saves this information. The only other thing that there is a fix on here, and I'm going to show you that coming up here too, is so in airplanes, if you've got the autopilot going on and you move one of the controls or something, it will disconnect the autopilot. Okay? In this case, it was so sensitive if you even looked at your control and, you know, psychically moved it a millimeter or less, it would disconnect the autopilot. So it was super duper sensitive, and it was disconnecting the autopilot all the time. I mean, Betty was getting tired of saying autopilot, autopilot, you know, like that. So they've gone and given us an option to change stuff. So now let's come on over here, ready to fly. And so we're back at the same gate and set my SimBrief username. So clearly it didn't work this time. So maybe all it did is SPYWITER. Maybe what we have to do on this one is save this. Let's go ahead and also do this thing now. Allow hardware overforce. You're going to turn that to no and hit save on that too. Okay, so maybe we don't have to go all the way out. Maybe what we have to do is we have to go out like this and then back in like this and see if that works. No. We want to go back and resume. Maybe we don't have to do that. So maybe it does that. Let's go over to dispatch and see what it says. Import flight plan. Okay, so I was totally wrong. What you do is you just go out to the, you do escape and then get right back in. So we can import our flight plan from SimBrief. Now, all of this has got some really, really great numbers, but this is where all of this stops, okay? As far as setting payload and fuel, error so it doesn't quite work yet. So you still got to do it yourself on that. Also, if you've got Navigraph, you're going to have to go ahead and sign in with Navigraph every time to be able to use the charts. So with that, the next thing that I'm going to do is there are other options you can set. I really don't change that much. Let's go and do wheel chocks. I'm going to get a ground power unit. I'm going to open up the 1L door for passengers, and we'll also open up the cargo main door. So that's going to open up our doors here. Okay, so you don't have to go out completely. That's good to know. You can see our ground power card is already plugged in, and here comes everything like that. Now with these doors opening and everything set here, the next thing I'm going to do is go to payload. And you have a choice. You can do passengers and cargo or zero fuel weight. This is new. So what's our zero fuel weight and our fuel? Well, zero fuel weight is 438,636. Let's go ahead and pop that in there. So come on over here and let's try and type it in. 438,636, right? 438,636, that's it. Now let's come in down and do our fuel. Block fuel is 44,193 pounds. Okay, so we got both of those. Now let's set the payload, see what happens. Oh, it didn't blow up. How about that? So the airplane is basically at 55%. Zero fuel weight says 430. It doesn't says 438. It just says 430. Okay. Payload, it says 146. What does this say our payload was supposed to be? Okay, it says 176. So we're off a little bit, but this is a real improvement. And fuel is 44.2. That's about right. So at least we've got those numbers. Now from here on out, don't change your EFB. Leave it alone until you're done with these numbers, okay? All right, let's go ahead. Time to do the fun stuff. Turn power on the airplane. Battery. Here comes our battery going on. That looks really good. Let's go down here. We're going to turn on our nav lights. Let people know there's some idiot in the cockpit pushing buttons. Ground power is available. We're going to punch that in. We're going to also arm the emergency power. And we're going to come down here and arm the emergency exit lights. We could also, while we're here, we can turn on the overhead and the panel backlighting. The flood does not work yet. So the flood does not work yet. And all of this looks good. Notice over here, though, that the bleed air panel does not light up. The backlighting isn't working on the bleed air panel, but it works on everything else. So if you're flying at night, that's going to be a little on the dark side. We can also do the same thing here, and we can go ahead and we can turn up the backlighting on flight guidance system. And if you want, the floodlight here for this does turn on, so you can turn that up, and that's going to make your autopilot backlit just a little bit better. And the airplane is slowly coming to life. It's also getting dark outside. We don't want to get a nasty email from marketing, so I'm going to turn on my logo light. Just because, you know, they want that to be taken care of. And the airplane's slowly coming together here. Really nice. Beyond that, you right now, you will recycle at one point in time the hydraulic system. And I also recycle the pneumatic system, the air. And so I'll leave those. And we're also going to go ahead, because we're fueling the airplane, we're going to turn on no smoking. Okay? There we go. And that's the power up, and that works around most of those little buggies right now. So now we can go ahead and do flight management computer. So FMC1, navigation data is still coming in from Navigraph. That's great news. And our company route. Now, I don't think I can get the company route to work right now. So it's just simply Stuttgart to Hannover. So EDDS. At least I haven't been able to import a flight plan yet. Fortunately, the flight plan isn't long. If we were doing cross the pond, I'd want the to be able to import. And then EDDV to go to Hanover. Our alternate today is Frankfurt. So EDDF, Frankfurt. And we are GEC, German Cargo, 441. I usually do the flight management computer from the top to the bottom for each page. So the next thing is position ref, and so we got to come on up here, and we have to turn on navigation. This is also going to be the cargo fire test. There is cargo fire test. We're also going to go ahead and do nav 1. Nav 2 and auxiliary nav. You notice that the forward flow switches are off. We're going to pop those on. I may be doing that a little bit early. And then we can slide over really fast, and we can do the emergency APU, engine APU fire test.
Engine 1 fire. Engine 2 fire. Engine 3 fire.
And Betty is with us right now. So all of that looks good. The next thing I might do here is just do a look down, and I might move my throttles up a little bit, make sure that my USBs are all connected. These airplanes, we got a lot of stuff that we've got to work with. And so going and setting, making sure your USBs are connected before you start flying is kind of a nice thing to do. Okay, then the next thing we'll do is continue on down with our final cruising altitude, which is flight level 240. Our cost index is 200. And there we go. There is our first page, page number 2. Page 2, our taxi fuel today is going to be 3.5. So 3,500 pounds of fuel. Route reserve today is 20.8. 20.8 is route reserve. And those are the only ones that work here. The next thing to do is block fuel. I usually will go in and clear out the ECAM switches here and turn on the engine ECAM and get my fuel right off of the fuel tank. It says 44.2. Guess what? That's what it's supposed to be. So I can take it right off the gauge. So 44.2. Whoops, missed 1.4. Let's see, there's another 4.2 and 44.2. Now then, our zero fuel weight, we could put it in. Let's do an experiment. I think you can just click the button and that should, nope, it doesn't. You got to put in a zero fuel weight. And to do that, our zero fuel weight is 430.0. So 430.0 is currently what the airplane's holding. And then it's also going to say your maximum landing weight is 471.5. Okay, then for zero fuel weight center of gravity, it used to show up on this. It doesn't anymore. So to do center of gravity, just click the button and it will populate that for you. And that takes care of this. Alternate fuel, final flight time, and trip fuel, those don't work. At least I haven't been able to put data in. And then the last number is our refuel quantity. I just go ahead and put 44.1. Actually, it's 44.2 according to that. I just put in my block fuel, and there we go. And that's good to go with that. Flight plan time. So out of Stuttgart, we are departing off of runway 25. So runway 25, this is going to be the TAGIK 4 Bravo departure. So TAGIK 4 Bravo. And we got a few TAGI 4 Bravo. There we go. And then there's no transition, and we'll insert that. Okay, after TAGIK, we've got a couple of airways. So we'll come down, find TAGIK, put it kind of in the middle there. Click that. There is TAGIK and airways. And the airway that we want is the Zulu 3 airway. Zulu 3 takes us to ABUMO, ABUMO. ABUMO. A-B. I wonder if the real world pilots say it out loud as they're putting it in like I do. After ABUMO, we're on the November 850 airway. The November 850. And November 850 takes us to Vorburg. WRB. WRB. So Vorburg VOR. And then insert that. There's our flight plan. It's in. All ready. Very nice and simple off of that. Okay, so come on down here, and this should take us to, the last one should be Vorburg. There it is. And then EDDV, our arrival into Hanover. Our arrival runway should be 27 right. So 27 right. There's more ILSs here. Okay, so we got 27 right. A Yankee or a Zulu. I think the best one I found is the Zulu. So ILS 27 right Zulu. ILS 27 right Zulu. We're coming in on the Vorburg 8 Papa arrival. And there's a whole lot of them here, so we'll just keep going down. I don't think you can go at it from the bottom up there. Okay. There is okay, so here's Wira, but here is Vorberg, WRB, 5 Romeo. We want an 8 Papa. Vorberg, 8 Papa. 8 Papa, and then we're coming in via, I think it's SAS. I think it's Starstedt, but let's make sure. This is why I love to, yeah, SAS. So that means we get sassy with the controller. And there's your first stupid joke of the day. Vorberg, all of that looks good, and insert. There is our flight plan. Let's hit flight plan again and check for some discontinuities. This should be discontinuity free. This should take us from runway to runway all the way. So we'll just kind of come down here. Now, one of the things that I have noticed is it doesn't exactly load in altitudes very well. There's Vorberg, and all of that looks good. Yep, that looks great too. And at SAS, it's got us below 8,000 feet. And then after that, it's got us coming on in. Yep, that takes us right into our runway. Perfect. We have a flight plan, so that should work. Okay, so now all of that's pretty good. The next thing we can go and do is we can go over to, I think performance is not done yet. So let's see, the flight plan is done. We have done init, page B, all of that's good. There's our active flight plan. I think we get to do takeoff and approach now. So here's a bunch of stuff. First of all, flex temperature. I'm going to admit I have no clue as to what to put in here, but I'd still like to be a little flexy. So the next thing to maybe do is take a look at the current temperature, and I've been playing around with my 15 degree theory. We'll see how this works. Come on over here to Stuttgart. Let's go to weather, and right now the temperature is 4. So plus 15 degrees is 19. So I'm going to flex to 19 degrees. I have it. It hasn't messed me up too bad yet. Now then, slope and wind. This thing throws a lot of people off. To find slope and wind, if you've got Navigraph, it's so freaking easy. So come on back over here to information and runways. We're off of runway 25. Click the information button. And now we have our slope. The runway slopes up a little bit. And we also have a 4-knot headwind. So this is how you put that information in. It's a slope up, so the plus button, and then we're going to do, the number is 0.78 slash, and then the headwind is plus, minus for a tailwind, 0.4 for 0.4 knots, and that goes in here. And you can see up and headwind, and there we go. Outside air temperature. The next thing for outside air temperature is to come over and hit weather, and our outside air temperature is 4 degrees. So what we do is we go 4 and then the letter C for degrees Celsius and put that in. And then the next thing is, what do you do for flaps? We could do flaps 10, flaps 15. I've been doing flaps 10. I'm going to try flaps 15. And there's flaps 15, and now we have V-speeds. So 135, rotate is 153, V2 is 166. Now, because we are going to go flaps 15, we need to go to dial a flap here and put in flaps 15 for our takeoff. So we'll go flaps 15. There we go. Okay, and so all of these are here, and then VFR, flaps retract, is 176, stabilizer trim is 5.8, and everything is right with the world there. Next thing, this is usually in the process where I come up here, and I hit the start-stop for the APU. I'm told that if you hit either the APU power or APU air, that will start the APU as well. I'm just going to go ahead and hit start-stop there. let's see here. I need to go and see, did I do everything correctly? Flight plan init. Did I forgot to hit initialize IRS. Holy moly, that would have been a problem. Okay, I've done that a few times. So once you get the IRSs turned on, and if you look up and you happen to see they're all flashing, chances are you're like me and you forgot to do that. So, oopsie. Okay, so all of that looks good. Let's go ahead and do a couple of things here. First of all, our runway heading for departure. We are departing off of runway 25, so our runway heading is 252. So let's do 252 for our initial heading. 252. Like to get that set up as quick as we can. And then there is 252. And then we look at the departure. And our departure today is, let's see, we're done with that. Initial climb clearance is 5,000 feet. So we'll put in 5,000 feet. And there is 5,000 feet. We weren't done with those side tabs. Guess what I forgot? I forgot to put in the altimeter setting. So let's come over here. Back to airports. Stuttgart. Weather. The altimeter is 1016. So 1016 on the altimeter. It's set to inches of mercury. So go to hectopascals and 1016. There we go. That's set. Now, as you can see, it's kind of hard to read that. So I usually come down here and just below the fuel switches, which, holy cats, are on. Surprise, that's new. So that's kind of new. But I usually go down here and I dial these down to about, 9 o'clock. So I just dial all these for this LCD. Actually, I think these are CRTs. And even that, it's kind of hard to see. Even that, it's kind of hard to see. So let's come on back down here. And I'm going to go one more on those. The next one is off, so we've got it turned all the way down. Now I can kind of read those numbers a little bit better. Including, one of the hardest things for me to see is the flight directors. So all of that is looking good. And the APU should be up and running. It is. So let's patch in the APU power, disconnect ground power, and if we look over here, you can see that APU air is already on. At this point, I'm going to recycle from manual to auto up there. And that looks pretty good. And how's everything look down here? The generator load is a little bit high right now. Doors are open. And so now we can go ahead and start closing up the airplane. We're done with these numbers. So services. We're done with ground power. I'm going to disconnect that. Let's close the cargo main and the main passenger door. I've noticed also that with this airplane, the nose wheel is almost always turned off to the left there. So I just tapped my rudder pedal and it straightened it up. I don't know what that is. Okay, there's the big door. All of that looks good. Let's go ahead and get GSX and have GSX push us back. Prepare for pushback and departure. Lufthansa cargo. Okay, and then we're going to get a ground crew come walking up here. And everything else looks good. I'm going to look down here. I don't see the ground crew yet. We do have parking brakes on. So I'm going to pull my wheel chocks. And then I just usually go over to maybe the dispatch page or some other page like that for the moment. And there's ground crew. And you can see the size of our crew chief. The MDs are big airplanes.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Hey, we're ready for pushback too. Can imagine that. Now then, this is a complex airplane. I forget stuff, plus some of it doesn't work. So if you can, I went online one day and I did a Google search for MD11 space checklist space PDF. And lo and behold, the PDF checklist for Lufthansa cargo popped in. So I'm going to run that checklist. Gear pins are aboard. Pedostatic cabin signs are not on. Cabin signs are on. Flight control panel is set. The speed band is set. Taxi is showing up. Altimeters are set. Fuel is confirmed 44.2. SD status and system modes are auto. The takeoff data is inserted. We're going to do auto brakes to take off. The takeoff warning, we can check with Betty here.
Flap. Flat. Brakes. Flap.
Okay, so Betty works there. It also works with the middle engine. For some reason, it's never ever worked on engine number 3, though. Either on this or also on the rotate sim. Don't know. So all of that's pretty good. Let's see. Cabin is secured. Mobile phones are off. Let's see. We are going to push back here. I'm going to do nose, right, tail, left.
Release parking brakes.
Okay, the cabin is secured, mobile phones are off, engine ignition is going to A. I'm also going to start the auxiliary fuel pump. We're going to turn on the beacon is on, system modes are auto, parking brake is set, everything looks like we are ready to go. I think it's time to depart the scene of the crime. So all of this looks good. Here is our very big airplane. Let's come on down here. Parking brakes are off.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
Cool, we can do that. Let's come over here first, and we're going to put in a squawk code of 1000. So now you can come down here and squawk 1000. So it used to be the one button didn't work. Now it works. We can slide over here and switch this to transponder. You are not in mode Charlie, though, and you're supposed to, on VATSIM, squawk mode Charlie on taxiways. So we're going to go and take altitude reporting and turn it on. At this point, if we were on VATSIM, we would be squawking mode Charlie. And now it's time to go and start some engines here. Let's see if we can't start engine number 3. And engine number 3, here comes the N2. I still can't get this to turn to dials yet. My version won't do that yet, so we can't do that. Let's see. Things that I've read about the airplane says at 15 N2 is when you start it. But Inga from Lufthansa Cargo in the Lufthansa Cargo video started it at 17. Yes, that's how closely I watched those videos to learn how to fly this airplane. So that's the captain started it at 17. So there you go. And here comes engine number 3. Sounds outside are actually really pretty good. There are some outside animations that are not working right now. The engine spinners are not working. Also, if you watch the landing gear go up and down, it looks really, really weird. And if we look over there, there's our ground crew.
Set parking brakes.
And parking brakes are set.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start.
I have mine just set to as soon as I set the parking brakes, it will go and just undo the tug. Let's go ahead and start another engine. Engine number 1 is next. And here comes the N2 for engine number 1. We would also keep an eye on some of the oil and vibration. And oil looks good. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and fuel. And there goes the tug. Here comes our ground crew to remove the gear pin. And we're getting a good start there too. And you can see, I mean, there's our ground crew. There's the guy. That, I mean, these were such big airplanes. I say were. They're all being retired out right now, which is too bad. I've always just thought there was something really cool about the DC-10 and the MD-11. They're incredible looking jetliners. Here comes our ground crew guy, got the gear pin, and our crew chief is going to hold up the gear pin and say, "See, Captain, I've removed your gear pin. You get to taxi." So hold up the gear pin. There you go. Hi, see, I got my gear pin. Then the next thing they're going to do is also put that down and then go and do a wave says, Captain, I've examined the underside of your airplane. There are no people, no tools, no suitcases, no puppies, no kittens, and you can safely taxi. Some airlines call that the salute and release from guidance, and they get really, really specific. You do not release your parking brakes until you get those two things, because that's how people get hurt. You know, that's a big part of why it is you get the salute from the ground crew. 17% and fuel. The center, this flight management computer does not work, so don't bother with that one. While we're over here, we're going to turn off hydraulic. We can click engine, and we're going to go to the config page. And there goes our config page, and here comes engine number 3. Startup sounds in the airplane are pretty good. Engine sounds, I assume, are pretty good. It'd be great to hear from a real MD11 captain sometime. You know, what do they think of this? And we got a good start on all 3 engines, it looks like. So we'll come on up here and we can do APU. It says power. I usually turn off the APU bleed, and that starts shutting down the APU. Everything else is just fine. So the next thing we'll do is control checks, and that's going to be over here. And there goes elevators, ailerons, rudder pedals. Those look good. Stabilizer trim is 5.8. Let's set the trim. No, I don't have that great a memory. I looked over here and saw it while we were over here looking at those engine instruments. The next thing to do is we're going to turn on the anti-skid system and notice that everything's clear. We do have a hydraulic indicator. So with hydraulic, go over here and just recycle the system button, and hydraulic should be gone. So you do have to recycle both of those systems on the airplane right now. I don't remember doing that on the rotate. Okay, so next thing, we can go ahead and do flaps to 15. So there is slats, and there's flaps to 15, and you'll see the indicator over here. So there goes flaps to 15. We'll also arm the speed brakes. There we go. And I think we're ready to taxi. At this point in time, we would adjust our seats. So we're seated, and we can do rudder pedals. That's good. Let's come on down here. Parking brakes off, toe brakes are on while we look up. The way I saw the Lufthansa cargo pilot taxiing, all 3 engine levers go up. Look out. Are we starting to move? Once you start going at a decent clip, engine number 1 and 3 go to idle and taxi on the center engine. And that's how that works. After start checklist, APU is off, anti-ice is not needed. System modes are auto. Actually, anti-ice right now, I believe, is currently all on auto. I'm not 100% sure. I've got to learn a little bit. But right now, it all appears to be auto. Lights are out, so that tells me we're good. Takeoff checklist. Flight controls are checked and set. Flaps are set. Spoilers are armed. Our trim is set. And the EAD stands for Engine and Alert Display. It's the giant green box here. That is still on. We don't need the hydraulic auxiliary pump on anymore. And now we're going at a good 18 knots. And we need to slow down to about 10. Remember, the nose wheel on the MD is way behind the cockpit, so I turn a little bit late. And it has to be a little bit sharper sometimes. My middle engine is still up a little. And there we go, a nice little turnout there. So takeoff checklist is done. We're good to go with that. And you can see we slowed down a little bit. So let's give the center engine a little bit of help here. And it looks like it's going to be a really nice night to fly Actually, it's starting to get dark now. I'm doing this video several hours before we're actually going to be doing the flight over on the spy flight, which is over on Twitch. It's 757 Spy. Every flight is a group flight. You're always welcome to fly along. There is also a Discord. I'll put there are links below. So links for Discord. I also do a morning pre-flight video over on Patreon because I'm trying to do this as a small business after a whole lot of layoffs and stuff. So I've become a full-time content creator, and I have to say I absolutely have been enjoying the world. The flight sim community is great. The airplanes that we have keep getting better and better. So really am enjoying that too. And as we taxi on out, we'll do the, boy, if you like the video, please hit the like button. Maybe even a share with some of your friends too, so I can grow the channel here on YouTube. Doing pretty good on Twitch and need to figure out a way to do something better here on YouTube. I'm also still new enough on YouTube. I read all of the comments and questions. I'm so grateful for them. And everything's looking pretty good here. So let's see, before takeoff, our departure is one of those non-vector departures after the runway. So, okay, we're done with this again. Excuse me. So right after takeoff, we are going to be RNAVing to our first waypoint. So we're going to go ahead and hit the nav button, and that's going to arm nav. I'm also going to arm auto flight, and that's going to arm the auto throttles. At this point in time, don't be pushing those throttles up beyond 50%, because then the auto throttle might take over, and all of a sudden on the taxiway, you have takeoff thrust. Let's come over here and do traffic and data. And you saw the two little side-by-side arrows. That's GSX. Come on up here. Just disable GSX, and those two little annoying arrows will go away. A check of the ECAM shows that everything is blue. Whoa! What happened there? I might have touched something while we were looking around. That was weird. I may have touched something because all of a sudden we started turning. I didn't do it. Anyhow, the ECAM checklist is all green, so everything is great. That was weird. Sometimes the airplanes still take off and do things. The E175 from Flight Sim Studios, when you're coming in on an approach and you're nearing the end of the star and the beginning of the ILS, at that point in time it just decides to take off and go flying someplace. And it will also drop a couple of waypoints too. And speaking of waypoints, this airplane will drop a couple of waypoints. They don't show up in the in your flight plan down here, and that can be a little bit scary. If it gets too dark in the cockpit, there is a dome light right up above the captain's seat. Everything gets uncomfortably bright. So there's the dome light. Yeah, that was a weird turn. Don't know what that was all about. Let's see. The livery, the Lufthansa cargo livery, found that over at flightsim.to. There are a whole bunch of them over there. So all of those are ready for you. And now we can go down to engines. We're done with configuration. So I'll usually leave that one over on engines. Okay, we're clipping along here at about 35 knots of ground speed. So all the engines are now idle. Gentle braking. There goes the speed down. 30, 29, 28. Maybe a little more than just gentle braking here. 15 knots. 12. There's closer to 10. 10 knots for a turnaround here is great. And there is the Category 3 hold. And we're coming up here. The nose wheel kind of skids along in some cases. And here we are holding short. ATC has called and said line up and wait. So line up and wait for me is turn on the high intensities. I will also go over here and turn the landing lights. They're retracted, so I'll extend the landing lights, but I won't turn them on. I generally don't turn on landing lights until I'm pointed down the runway. If we were at an airport where there was a taxiway over on the other side and there was another airplane over there, the taxi lights would blind those other pilots. So that's just being nice. And a nice idle turn. This way we can line ourselves up really nice. Now we're going to see how that flex temperature of mine does us here. Okay, so let's go landing lights now on. There goes our landing lights on. Throttle's basically up halfway. So there's my throttles up halfway. And I wait until the engines catch up. And then I'll push them up a little bit further. And then stop and then see if the engines continue to, the RPM, the N1 continues to accelerate. If it does, that means that takeoff thrust is set and that the auto throttle has taken over. 80 knots. I do hope that the developers will include airspeed callouts. I think that would be really nice. And there's V1. So hands off the throttles. And there is rotate. And we had plenty of runway. So my half-baked little idea about flex temp seems to have, I got away with it this time. I don't know how well we flexed, but we flexed. Gear going up. Centering up my flight directors. They're still kind of wobbly. Okay, let's go and do FMS speed and profile. Look down here and see how we're doing. Not bad. And auto flight, ATC has called and said climb and maintain 17,000. So autopilot is taken over. So we're going to dial that over too. And we'll bring this map in, just click. There we go. There is 17,000. And we're at flaps retract speed. We're starting to accelerate now finally. So once we accelerate, then I'm going to do my flaps. I'm not doing those until I start seeing that this thing is actually accelerating. Okay, there we go. There's slats retract is coming up. Our climb is going pretty good. And there's slats retract. Slats are going up. Maximum is 230 knots around the turn. It's stopping us at about 220, it looks like. And at DSO40, after that, that is the end of the speed restriction there. So it should accelerate us there too. Could be there's something in the flight plan that's holding us back. What do we have for speeds? So yeah, so we've got 250 knots to Abgen. So there is a speed restriction that is somehow popped into there. I think that that's just the 10,000 foot speed restriction. So that's something to watch out for. It could be that our speeds, you know, we're going to need to speed up. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to increase my speed to 250 now. So I would imagine that ATC wants us to move. There goes our speed to 250. There's our climb. I have a CDU message, maximum landing weight. So they're still working that out. I will usually leave this on performance. Transition altitude is 5,000. Those work really good. So transition altitude, we are now set to standard. There's 250 knots passing 9,000 feet. Now we still have some speed restrictions coming up here. We're still 250 at ABGAN. That's not going to work. ATC is going to want us to go faster. So I'm going to go ahead and increase my climb, my speed on the climb after 10,000 feet to 280. We're done with landing lights, and we're done with the nose light. All the lights are off, and we'll make the map a little bit bigger. There's ABGAN. So after ABGAN, the speed restrictions stop. So once we do with that, and it's still yelling at me about my maximum landing weight. Apparently the stopwatch works again, so you can use the stopwatch over here. So the timer works pretty good. See, there was a briefcase light that's over there. You can also turn up the floor. That works pretty good. It does get kind of dark in this cockpit though. Once we start to get the floodlights working, that'll work. Past 11,000 feet, there's 280 knots. We'll go to FMS speed after ABGAN, and then that should be good, because everything else looks normal. Let's go back to performance. There's performance climb. Over here, we could go and clear this, and we could go and pop in. Progress is still lacking some data. So it's still lacking some data there. I'll usually go flight plan there, performance there. After takeoff items, auto brakes to off. Speed brakes disarmed. Flaps are up. Our flaps 15 speed and my, little 15 flex temperature seem to work out pretty good. Okay, there is ABGAN. Let's go ahead and proceed to our final cruising altitude, which is 24,000 feet. I'm going to go ahead and go to FMS speed. And now FMS speed, as you can see, has kicked us up to 310. So out we go. Not bad. Oh, wow. Cool shot with the moon and everything. How about that? Oh, screen grab time. Screen grab time for that. Very nice. Oh, we're going to have a nice moon for us tonight on our flight. There's 15,000. Everything is great. So far, so good. So far, so good. So we'll continue with the climb. The airplane will give you a top of descent indicator. So as we come on out here, you can see as we come on in, there is 80 miles. I think you could just barely make out the top of descent hockey stick right there. It's that little pink thing. So we're at 80 miles right now. Usually what I will do is on a video like this, as we're climbing out and cruising, I'll just pause the video so you don't have to sit here and listen to me yammer on. But basically what we'll do is about 50 miles from top of descent, if you're flying with me, that would be the time for you to start the video again. So how about if we plan on that? I think that the airplane's going to do just fine. So let's go back outside, and I will say see you 50 miles from top of descent. And there we go, top of descent, almost around 50 miles right now. Welcome on back. Thank you. I hope you had a nice time and your flight's going as well as mine. This has really been a pretty good one. So we're just going down by the numbers right now. So it could be by now VATSIM. ATC is going to be telling us to descend a little bit sooner. But for now, we'll just go ahead and descend when the airplane says to descend. We've still got a big old full moon out there that looks really good. It was very nice flying past the Frankfurt airport. Was able to see the runways just right through the clouds there. Really nice. The scenery is continues to amaze me here in the exciting world of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So descent preps time. First thing we're going to do is figure out our descent. Without any other guidance from ATC, we'll go ahead and go to our platform altitude. And platform altitude for this is 3,000 feet. So let's come on over here and we'll just dial in 3,000 feet. This airplane, if you dial that in and you got a descent, it should start your descent right on schedule. So 3,000 feet is going to be our next altitude. After that, the next thing we have to do is plan for the ILS. And so coming down here, we go to the NAVRAD page, and over here on the arrival, you can see the ILS has a call sign. So the frequency is 108.9, the inbound course is 271, but the call sign is India Hotel November Whiskey. That is what we're going to put in here. So India Hotel November Whiskey, IHNW. And then we'll put that in here for the ILS, and then verify your course, 271 degrees, yep. 108.9, yep. So that's all set and ready to go. At this point, we'll go back over here to performance. Next page should show your transition altitude. Here is 5,000 feet, so that's really pretty good. There's our descent speeds. We may have to change those during the VATSIM flight. It's also starting to get really dark here in the cockpit. So if we come up here, we'll go and maybe just turn on the dome so you can see a little more of what we're doing. That's really about it here. We are coming up now on 40 miles from our top of descent. Everything else looks really good here. If you use the Thrustmaster, not the Thrustmaster, the Logitech radio panel, there is a plug-in for the airplane now, but it only shows you the frequency in active. You can still dial the standby frequency, as you can see there. It just does not show that in your on your Logitech radio panel. So you kind of have to look at it this way to dial that in. So you have to do it that way. And there is 40 miles from top of descent. And there is the flight plan. So we're going to descend. It says right after Vorburg, VOR. So that should all be good. Everything else I think is good. The only thing I haven't done is minimums. So minimums for this ILS are 369 feet. So hit the barrel button and 369. You can only do in increments of 10, so we'll have to go 370. And that number is right there. You can also see it says no glide slope, but it does show something down here. That's interesting. We're still a ways out. That could be a VOR or an ILS from a nearby airport, maybe. Let's see, landing. Let's do auto brakes for landing. And I'm not going to arm my speed brakes yet because we may need them on our descent here today. And if you've armed them, you can't deploy them right now. So even though they're armed, if I arm them, I can't use them. So we're going to have to go ahead and just leave it disarmed until we get closer to landing. The latest altimeter setting for our flight, we can get all of that through Navigraph. Really cool. EDDV weather. This is 19 minutes old. The altimeter setting is 1011. So we've got that, and we'll do that at 5,000 feet. Chances are, at this point in time, VATSIM would have told us to start descending by now. So they would have, well, we're at 24,000. That usually is the altitude they'll start us at. So it could be, since we filed for 24, we'll just stay here. I'm gonna let the airplane descend itself on this to see what happens. Just because I'm still kind of experimenting with it too. Let's see, we can go to the takeoff and approach page. It doesn't give you a lot of information, but it will give you a VAP speed of 165. So 165 is what we've got. The Lufthansa cargo pilots, the videos I watched, they all did Landing speed 165 plus 1, so 166. They always added 1 extra knot. So I've been adding 1 extra knot. I hope that's not me being naughty. And there's your second dumb joke for the day. See, you're just getting all sorts of great jokes today. Beyond that, I'm not sure what else is working or not at the moment. They're also changing the flight characteristics of the airplane, and it seems to be a bit more stable. I'm using a Thrustmaster TCA Airbus Captain's Pack, and I did order a second set of throttles, so I got a total of 4 throttle levers. So what I do have is I have one button here to disconnect the auto throttles, and that's the little red button on the side, and then the red button on the 4th throttle is what triggers my thrust reverse. And it seems to be working. Haven't been advancing the throttles yet for thrust reverse, so we'll see how that works. And I almost always do auto brakes medium unless it's a really short runway. So coming up on our top of descent here almost immediately. We're 5 miles from Voorburg, and then after that it should start descending itself. We shall see. I did hit the profile button, so that should do it. And there is almost to Voorburg. And our ILS is also starting to show up here, so let's go ahead and bring the map in a click. That looks better. 1.6 miles. Anticipation is growing. We'll see how the airplane behaves. And half a mile to Voorburg and then descend. There is our turn. Okay, there we're going. And now we do have, we also got descent deviation, and we have started descending. So we'll keep an eye out and see if the airplane wants us to do speed brakes. Right now we're a little high. Let's see if it catches up. Yeah, speed's coming up here, you can see. Building up, add drag. So speed brakes going out. There's our speed brakes out. And we'll just wait till that kind of catches up. I have noticed this airplane just comes down at warp factor 10. You know, descends at about 310. So you may get a call. Okay, remove drag. So we'll put that away, and we're all set on the descent. Usually at this point in time, or fairly close to now, VATSIM's going to say, oh, slow it down there. So we're at 330. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to say, well, VATSIM would like us to come in at about 290. So let's go ahead and 290. There goes our speed down. It says 290. We're going to go ahead and throw out some speed brakes and help out a little bit. Okay, there's our speed reducing, and our descent is going pretty good too. Still doing pretty good. We'll do the approach checklist at transition. That's 5,000 feet. And the altimeter is still 1011. And speed brakes down. And we're still descending pretty good. According to the airplane, we're doing good. Let's see how it works. At a certain point in time, I've noticed that a lot of the Microsoft Flight Simulator airplanes tend to descend a little bit too slow for VATSIM's pleasure. So we usually have to pick up our rate of descent quite a bit. Right now, we're only descending at 700 feet per minute. My guess is they'd say, no, get that, you know, we want you down there now. So we may have to go over here, and I usually just go to vertical speed descent and then kick it up from there. So do we have a level change kind of a thing? Not really. Okay, so that's good. There's 18. Okay, there is the SAS. So there is the SAS VOR. What does it want us to be at SAS? It says around 6,000, 5,000 feet as we come in. There's 30 miles, though, so we got a ways to go. Maybe it will all work out. This is why I also wanted to do this flight prior to hopping on VATSIM, just to see how the airplane handles everything without VATSIM telling us to do stuff. See, I did turn off the logo light. We're coming down here, so we'll go ahead and I'm going to do logo lights. And we also did seatbelts to auto. Let's go ahead and turn it to on. And 290 is pretty good. We're still a good 30 miles away. There's 18,000 feet. I don't know. It looks like, I think it's probably going to make it. I think it'll probably be just fine. And a very, very big moon out there. Whenever you can, be sure and look around in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just a cool looking airplane. Okay. Looking good so far. My guess is it's probably time to slow down just a bit more. So how about, let's go to 250. I know we're at 16,000 feet. It's a big airplane. I think we're going to need some speed brake to help get us there. There is SE in gold, and that's slats extend. It'll turn to green once we pass that speed. And then we should be able to extend the slats. See, it's green. So slats extend. There we go. Next step is going to be flaps 15. That's gear extend, so we could do gear, and there's 250. There's 15,000 feet. Airplanes seems to be doing pretty good so far. I'm told that the approach land button here is still the equivalent of hitting the AZ5 button at Chernobyl. You don't want to do it. They're working on it, but approach and land is not your bestest bud. So after CI 287, let's see, do we have another waypoint in there? There is also HA in the flight plan. Can I put in HA? There's a non-directional beacon here. Can I put that in before that runway? HA, what is it? It's 320. That's it right there. Did that put that in? Yes, that put that in. That gives us another waypoint that we could really use since we don't have approach land. Okay, how are we doing here? 250, SAS is about 15 miles away, 13,000 feet. The airplane says we're still doing just fine on this. So it still says we're doing pretty good. Okay, so all of that's good. VAP is still 165 plus 1 is 166 to land. Hey, look at that. We got glide slope and localizer now, too. So, let's see. We're 250. Got a ways to go here. It's 11 miles from the Starstead VOR to the turn. So, we still can go a little bit further. But my guess is VATSIM would like us to slow down even more. The reason that I've added this extra waypoint, I wanted to put HA in there, is because there was only one. There was the turn and the runway. And I'm going to try and use LNAV to get me lined up on the runway while we're busy doing other stuff. Normally we would hit approach and land and it would line us up on the runway and even start us down on the glide slope. But in this case, since that doesn't work, by adding HA, which you can see there, we have an intermediate waypoint. Okay, there's 10 miles. How about 210? 210 for our speed. And we're going to try and be down to 180 for that turn. So there's 210. And there's 210 there. Might need some speed brakes to help slow us down. And now the airplane's all of a sudden decided we need to descend with a purpose. So now it's like 3,000 feet per minute. There's flaps 15. Flaps 15 going out. Now it's just 2,600 feet per minute. So slowing us down really has helped a bit. So speed brakes you can see are out. Flaps are 15. So far so good. And there's the turn at Starstad. And we're still trying to slow down. Now we're starting to slow down a little bit better. And we're about 15 miles from our turn. It's still struggling. Oh, now all of a sudden it wants to descend at 4,000 feet per minute. See why we got the speed brakes out? Holy moly. Okay. Now all of a sudden it's changed its mind. Now we're slowing that descent rate down. Here we are at 10 miles. Usually at this point, ATC is going to call and say, go ahead and 180 knots till 5 miles DME. It wants us to retract the speed brakes. We're going to just leave them there for the moment because we're going to continue to reduce our speed. How about landing gear? Gear going down. And like I said, the gear animation is a little bit weird. There's flaps 28. Gear going down. One more click of this. And we could actually do flaps 35 if we wanted to. Flaps are going to 35. One of the interesting things that happens with this airplane is you hear all of these creaks and groans and grumbles and stuff, which is really entertaining. Okay, so we're at 180. VAP is 166 now, so one more is 167 is landing speed. There's 5,000 feet. We're doing pretty good. Let's see. Our wind today is 250 at 4 knots. 250 at 4 knots. So it's going to be, what, from the left blowing us to the right at about 5 knots? That's not awful. Here's 5,000 feet. Our altimeter is 1011. 1011. There's our altimeter at transition. So altimeters are checked and set. Approach checklist. System modes are auto. Altimeters are set. Checklist is done. So now we're going to get our turn at CI2RZ. And then after that, we have one more waypoint to the runway, and that's going to get us all lined up. So that does some important work for us. This point in time, I bet, though, VATSIM, have you got the runway in sight, cleared for the visual, and all that other stuff? So we got the airport in sight. Hello, Hannover. And we're continuing down to 3,000 feet. At the HA, at Hannover, it should be 1,400. I'm going to let my descent continuing now down from 3,000 to 1,400. The airplane should handle it for me just fine. Again, I want the airplane to do work for me at the moment because we're talking on the radio. We got to switch to tower. We got to make sure everything's good. So that's why, and I got that number from the 1,400 right here at HA. So that's how it is that I got that information. So this is making the airplane do the work for me a little bit while we make our turn. Okay, here comes our glide slope. Now it's descending me awfully fast. So let's see if it's going to go ahead and stop me at 1,400 at HA. There's no altitude there, but it should stop me there. We're getting below the glide slope.
2,500.
Hey, Betty's with us. And at this point in time, everything's relatively good. So I think we're in great shape. We're coming up on 7 miles. So 167 for our landing speed. Now it's just settling us down on the descent here. 167. Autopilot's off. Captain's got the airplane.
Autopilot.
And we'll come on over here and get ourselves lined up a little bit better. There's still a descent guidance window out there. We're still going down. A little bit low now. So let's just stop our descent and we'll hold it here. There's our turn. Now we're actually climbing. No. We don't want to climb. The airplane is also a little more sluggish than your normal jet. It takes a little bit of work to make it turn. It also does not auto trim like the Airbus. Okay, that looks relatively good. And I'm watching for my glide slope. Okay, we're a little off to the left now. Gentle turn over here. Here comes glide slope. We're going to stay ahead of it. I'm also physically moving my throttles down just below halfway. There's about 800 feet per minute. I'm still letting the auto throttle work for me, but I did just move them below that little midway detent that we have in the Airbus throttles.
1,000.
Now we're getting a little bit high. Back over here. Landing gear is down, 4 green. Auto brake, spoilers, flaps, EAD is not green. That's because I don't have flaps out full. I don't go flaps out full until I commit. Because if I have to go around or something, these things just don't like to climb with full flaps.
500.
And
Approaching minimum.
I don't get them up in time. Hands on the
400.
throttles.
Minimum.
Landing.
300.
Auto throttle is off.
200.
Off to the side. Come on, airplane, get back over here. And touchdown. And then you really do need to put the nose on the ground. Hit the reverser button. Auto brakes and reversers should get us. You may need to put your throttles forward a bit on those reversers. Well, we missed our high speed. Manual braking. Stow the reversers. Welcome to... Oh, I forgot and left some speed brakes out on that descent. No wonder it felt a little funny. I left my speed brakes out. Oh well, flaps up. Off the runway. Not bad. We actually did that. That wasn't a bad one at all. So let's see. Let's go ahead and landing lights can go off. Oh, I never got my landing lights on. Totally forgot that one too. There's a lot to remember on this airplane. We're off the runway. High intensities can go off now. And the middle engine is now up. Flaps are going up. Yep, flaps are up, speed brakes are down. We're not taxiing with everything hanging out. So at least we've cleaned that up. Landing rate was a -393. How was the touchdown point? So actually the touchdown point was right where it was supposed to be. There's the touchdown bars. It's a little washed out there There's the touchdown point, and we were right on it. We were slightly off to the side. I consider that better than a low landing rate. It was 393. I really do consider it to be better to touch down where you're supposed to, as opposed to, you know, a nice low landing rate. So that does not feel bad at all. Doesn't feel bad. There's our turnaround there. So over here, we're done with this. And then we zoom it on in. And then we have a nice taxi to the stand. That is the really nice moving map. So 393. I think 393 with this big of an airplane, as heavy as this thing is absolutely okay. Absolutely okay. Okay, auto brakes disarmed. Auto brakes are off. Speed brakes are disarmed. Speed brakes are disarmed. Picking up a little speed on the taxi here. And up, the camera's in the grass. And boy, has it gotten dark here. So that all looks really good. Let's see, at this point, we would turn off altitude reporting, but that also turns off mode Charlie in VPilot, so we're not squawking mode Charlie, so there you go. As we come on up here, we could come over here. Let's get services ready to go. We're going to need wheel chocks as we come on in. See, at this point in time, I already yapped about this a little bit. Hope you'll join me over on the Spy Flight on Twitch. We fly every day right now, Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. Usually get about 3 flights in a day, and every flight is a group flight. Even if you're brand new at this, you're always welcome to come on in. There's a group of really smart people over there, including some real-world airline pilots that come in, and they're really good about answering questions too. So I hope that you'll consider coming over and visiting us there. If you really liked what you saw, if you feel like going over there and dropping a sub, that would be really nice. If you liked what you saw here, you could also use the Ko-fi link that I've signed up for, and that is just below the video window that you're watching right now. If you're really into what you're seeing, there is also a link to the Patreon page, and that's a pre-flight video that I do each morning about the first flight of the day, and also some of the other things that we're planning on doing here on the Spy Flight. I always also like to say that I've been flight simming for a long time, live streaming for about 7 years. It's never, especially in a flight simulator, about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what works in the sim. This is what works for me, and I hope it's something that works for you too. I'm usually over here on YouTube once a week. If there's a airplane that you'd like to see, a video like this, a cold and dark type video, please feel free to drop that suggestion into the comments. Like I said, I'm new here on YouTube, and I read them all. So thank you for doing that. Here we are coming up into the cargo zone here. And as we come around to the cargo zone, I think basically, if I'm reading my charts right, we kind of turn in here. And then there should be, aha, is that, there it is, yep, spot 27. And so there's spot 27 for cargo. Yep, spot 27, perfect. Sadly, these airplanes are being retired now, but I really think they're cool airplanes. Hope you enjoy it too. Again, if you don't have the airplane and would like the airplane, TFDI, oh, what's this? This is a little bit of a turn here. Yeah, I didn't read that one right, did I? Air Cargo Hannover, perfect. So we'll just stop right there, and parking brakes can go on. And we're gonna do engine number 1 and engine number 3. We'll also turn off altitude reporting and go to standby on the transponder. Let's get the dome light on. We'll turn off the nose light. That can go off too. So now all we do is we have engine number 3 going. Wheel chocks can get put in, and you connect your GPU. Cargo operations, you don't really want to start your APU. So we come up here and see, do we have external power? It's available. Punch that in, and then at that point in time, engine number 2 can go off. And with engine number 2 going off, we can also turn off the beacon. We'll do those cabin signs. And then if you wanted to, you could come over here and open the 1L, open the cargo main door, and everything's all open. We got the moon up there too. And we made it. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. So, hey, I hope that this helped out a little bit as you're thinking about this airplane. Or if you're a collector's edition airplane owner and you're already trying to figure it out, I hope this airplane, the video helped. And you having as much fun with the plane as I am. If you look over on Twitch, the flight that I'm actually doing on Twitch, by the time you see this on YouTube, will have already happened, but the VODs will be good. I think it's going to probably be an okay flight for us. In the meantime, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well and that your flight simulator travels are great. I'll look forward to seeing you over on Twitch soon and sometime soon here on YouTube as well. In the meantime, as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.